There's been a bit of confusion about how to approach the figure in stone task, a top-down drawing task. So I thought I'd do a little retrospective look at this. It's past the event, and so that window in terms of assessment has closed, but I think the training point of the exercise is still something worth revisiting. So we're going to look at one of the subjects someone was working from this study period, and I'll show you just a quick way I went about it this time. This is not the be-all and end-all and exactly the way I might do it every time, but this is a rough top-down procedure that would pretty much encompass the task as described. So right now I'm working my way around the whole figure, trying to look right across the form, treating it as a piece of stone I'm finding, and rough cutting, marking up for further cuts, if you like, to use the sculptural analogy. The main thing is I'm not looking at objects. I'm looking overall at big assemblages of shapes and relating them shape to shape across the composition, across the page. The object of this exercise ultimately is accuracy, and so it might look a bit strange that this is so speculative and kind of rough, but bear in mind this is a training process. It's not necessarily a way you would always go about making a fine drawing, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with this approach with that in mind, particularly if you're like me and quite like the look of a struggle where an artist has been at pains to try and work something out, and you can almost see it being worked out in front of you. If you know the work of the drawings and paintings of Giacometti, for instance, that's one of the things to enjoy about those, or the charcoal drawings of Frank Auerbach. So now we're moving further through the drawing, really just starting to consolidate some areas now, and about this time it starts to look like objects, identifiable objects. While looking at that, or letting that just potter along, it's worth making the point that the training value of this particular figure in stone task, even though we are beyond where it was in the program, it continues in as much as it has a bearing on the upcoming tasks. And I've prepped another little video on working in tone that is also very much a top-down process that you can have a look at after this if you want. I've mentioned it earlier somewhere along the line. The YouTube link is there in the post in which the link for this one appears. It possibly goes without saying, but I will make the note anyway, that this way of working, of course, is not the only way to go. You don't have to make a kind of cloudy, speculative mess and work your way out of it like this. There are all kinds of other ways you can make a drawing which is precise from go to woe. If you have the perfect eye and can get shape and proportion, line control, angularity and axis absolutely perfect from the word go, there's no reason why you can't make a single outline perfect drawing from the beginning. And there are of course lots of other ways, and I'm hoping to do another approach to this same subject using a completely different, well, or relatively different anyway, strategy, working more point to point and building the drawing. I hope you can see the benefit, the potential benefit in the way I constantly shift my focus, my area of operation in this sort of drawing in such a way as to continually be able to look across the whole form, the whole arrangement, to check the relationships, so that the big stuff, the fundamental forms that have to be right for the smaller forms that they carry to be right, are right. In other words, working down the priorities top down. I'm just finishing off this drawing now with a couple of shape linking alternatives a la the described exercise. But first we'll just knock off the last few bits of this drawing as far as I'm going to take it anyway. Of course we could do a lot more detail and articulate every shape and every object and specify and clarify, but I just want to move on now into the end aspects of the drawing as described, where we find linking forms and look at it more as an abstract composition. Like that. That's just one version. Could be any other.